My name is Chris Holton Jablonski, and it is my great joy and privilege to serve you as your minister. And I am coming to you with our entire family for another From Your Minister Junior edition, where we tell you a story, and then also we have a little bit of the mailbag. And so, it begins, once upon a time, there was a little girl who was in a very, very particular moment of life. She was about to start kindergarten, which was a big deal. She was very fancy. She knew all sorts of stuff that she had learned from preschool. And she was in this very interesting moment that we're all sharing. You had the virus, which was still happening and still very complicated. And summer was beginning, and so everything that she was used to was changing. And there was a lot of conversations happening, and she was paying a lot of attention to racism, to Black Lives Matter, to people rising up. She really deeply wanted to help the world be a better place. And she was thinking a lot about it. And so it was that one night, in the middle of the night, she woke up with this strange weight on her body. And she opened her eyes, and she saw the entire world, an earth, was resting right on top of her. And she sat up, and she could hold it in her hands. It was very, very heavy, but it was just heavy enough that she could still lift it and hold it. And she sat on her bed, and she held it in her arms, and she loved it. She had such tender feelings for this world. She had been thinking about how she wanted to make the world a better place, and she thought that this was her opportunity. And so she held it in her arms, and she loved it. And she felt this strange kind of rumbling. And she was a little bit worried when all of a sudden there was a crack that appeared right towards the top of it. A crack, and she was really scared that it was going to break and that it would be her fault that the world had broken. And so she kind of tried to hold the crack together, but the world kept rumbling. And the crack got even worse and even deeper. And she tried, and if she pushed really hard, it would fuse back together, and she could keep it from breaking if she worked really hard and pushed it with all of her strength and all of her might. And sure enough, after she did, the crack sealed, and it was good for one more night. The very next night, she woke up in the middle of the night again with this weight on her, the weight of the world again, and she sat up, and she held it, and she loved that earth and loved that world. And it started to rumble again, and sure enough, there was this crack. And all of her strength, she could hold it together, and she could stop the crack from cracking, and she could keep the world whole and unbroken. And her grandmother came up to visit for the very first time. And she was so excited because she had that kind of relationship with her grandmother where she could tell her anything. And she told her about what had happened the last 2 nights. That the world had come to her, that she was holding the world together, and she had helped it stop from breaking. And her grandmother was very wise and listened to her, and had missed her so much, listened to her entire story, and she smiled. And sure enough, that next night, the same thing happened. The earth was on her, and the weight, she sat up, and she was holding it, and she was loving it, and it shook, and it cracked. But this time the crack was even bigger and even stronger, and it was too much for her to put back together. And so she decided, she lifted up the world, and she went into the room where her grandmother was sleeping, and she woke her up, and she said, Grandma, look, it's the world, just like I told you. And her grandmother turned around in her bed, and she said, all right, bring it up into my bed. And she sat, and they held the world in between her, in between the two of them. And the grandmother looked, and she said, oh, child, the world's not breaking. She said, take my hands. And the little girl put 2 little hands in her grandmother's hands, and they held each other's hands, and in between them, the world continued to shake. And the crack got even bigger and even bigger. And she said, but Grandma, I think it's going to break apart. And she said, just you watch. Just you keep loving this world. And the crack went all the way around until the earth kind of opened up like the blossoms of a petal, and a new earth came right out from the middle. The earth wasn't breaking, the earth was hatching a new and more beautiful version of itself. And there they stood with this new, bigger, more beautiful, more peaceful, more loving world. And we tell you this story because that's a lot of what's happening right now. It can feel sometimes that the world is broken. It can feel sometimes that the world is kind of out of control right now. But there is a newer, deeper, truer version of this world waiting to be in the process of being born. And I am so grateful that we get to hold and love this entire world together. We get to reach out our hands, take each other's hands, and love this world in between us. Amen. And so now, I believe... Yep. I believe it's time. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe it's time for the mailbag. For the mailbag. Is it mailbag? Maybe? All right. So as always, joined by Aaliyah and Jack with Ben behind the camera. And our mailbag section, we answer questions that you send in. But there was no questions this week, so do please send us in some questions. But I am going to take the opportunity to interview the team. And so right now we'll start with Jack. Jack or Beans is something that I call him and have for many years. What is your favorite food, Jack?
It's tied between Chipotle and like the omelets that I have every morning. Except for Saturday morning.
That's right. And what's in the omelet?
Lots and lots of cheese.
Yeah, it's good. Cool. And so, Jack, of all of the stuff that you've done, what's one of your favorite movies that we've watched during all this time?
Artemis Fowl.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty much the only one that I've watched, but I also like Thor.
That's right. We had we're making our way through the entire Marvel canon slowly. All right, and then let's see. So you're about to start middle school next year, which is very exciting. Is there anything in particular you're looking forward to in the new year coming up?
No.
No.
Not in particular.
Nice. And then what about the rest of the summer? Any of the summer adventures you're particularly looking forward to?
Camping.
Camping. Nice. Perfect. So camping is coming. All right. And then we'll also ask the cameraman, Benjamin. Oh, yes. Wait. What? Is there a question? Yes?
Daddy.
Yes?
For my question, Daddy.
Yes.
Say nay.
Same name. Oh, okay. Perfect. And I'll ask Aaliyah a question. Nay? Nay. That's what unicorns say. And then Benjamin, what is one of your favorite things?
Cheese.
Cheese. And so cheese wins the day. So we are sending you all so much love. Know that you're held. Know that you're loved. Know that we're going to make it through this challenging time. And thanks for watching. Send us the questions. We will see you next time.
Bye.